talk about Republicans, not Trump specifically. We can move on from Donald Trump. We actually do need to talk about Dan Kelly, the Republican nominee, or I should say conservative nominee for the Wisconsin Supreme Court. For the first time in 15 years now, the Wisconsin Supreme Court will be controlled by a very progressive majority, and it is very progressive. A lot of things and wins that Republicans have won in Wisconsin over the last few years are going to be rolled back because Republican voters chose to nominate Dan Kelly. Kelly lost by 11 points the last time he ran for the seat. So the genius voters of Wisconsin nominated him again. And guess what? He lost by 11 points again. This is a problem. This is not a Trump problem. It's not a DeSantis problem. It's not an establishment problem. It's not a Trump wing problem. It is a voter problem. When you nominate bad candidates, guess what? You get bad results. The same thing happened in Georgia with Herschel Walker. Now, Kelly, of course, this time he came after 2022. Kelly was involved in some of the 2020 stolen election hijinks. It's why a lot of voters voted for him this time, to nominated him. They loved that he was down with the 2020 stolen election stuff, and they rewarded him, and the general election voters beat him to a bloody pulp with an 11-point loss. The Trump team is out saying, oh, Dan Kelly had only he asked for Donald Trump's help. He said he didn't want Donald Trump's support. Well, the fact of the matter is he was running a judicial race, and in the judicial code of ethics, you're not supposed to get politicians' endorsements. And he lost by the same number of points as the last time. You get to Georgia, and you get Herschel Walker. I was as supportive as I possibly could be of Herschel Walker in the general election, and voted for him in the general election. And the whole time I was warning everyone exactly what was going to happen. It was obvious to anyone who actually cared about winning that Herschel Walker was going to be an unmitigated disaster. Y'all, I got to tell you, I had breakfast with Herschel Walker. And I left that breakfast knowing that man was not going to win. I tried to be as supportive as I possibly could. He's a very nice person, and he was surrounded by really good people. And those really good people do not deserve blame for Herschel Walker's defeat because they probably kept it from being a blowout. They got him to a runoff. Without them, it would have been a blowout in favor of Raphael Warnock. Herschel Walker was a bad candidate. And anyone who paid attention at all should have known he was a bad candidate. In the same way in Wisconsin, Kelly was a bad candidate who ran a bad race last time and clearly hadn't won or learned any lessons. Ultimately, this is about the voters. The Republican voters of Georgia who complain about Raphael Warnock overwhelmingly voted for Herschel Walker to be the Republican nominee, so they get what they deserve. They get exactly what they set themselves up to get. Now, most of my listeners are in Georgia, and they may be enraged with me saying that right now, but you know it's true. When you nominate a man who's in video with his ex-wife, with her talking about he held a gun to her head, and he says outlandish things all the time, and lived a cloistered existence and ran a primary campaign avoiding the public spotlight, you get exactly what you were going to get. And you should have known it. And the Republican voters in Wisconsin, you ran this guy and he lost by 11 points the last time. You went through 2022. You saw Republican voters themselves reject the stolen election people. And what did you do? You nominated him again. One of the states that got it right was Virginia. The Republican voters there decided to avoid a nominating convention fight a primary fight where they could have gotten crazy instead of Glenn Youngkin. They got Glenn Youngkin and they won. Look at Pennsylvania and Mehmet Oz. Mehmet Oz barely won the nomination. Mehmet Oz won by 0.1%. The only reason Mehmet Oz won is because Sean Hannity and Melania Trump convinced Donald Trump to endorse him at the last minute, and he barely won. The other guy probably would have beaten Fetterman. Oz is a New Jerseyan, not a Pennsylvanian. In his videos around the state, it was clear he was out of touch with the people of Pennsylvania. He couldn't even pronounce basic institutions of Pennsylvania. So there's a hot dog stand near where I live. It's called New Way Wieners. I always say New Way Wieners, grade D but edible. I love New Way. It doesn't sit well in your stomach. The hot dogs, they're like grade D but edible. They have a patented red dye in them. I mean, you look at this stuff and you'd be horrified that any human being would eat it. Oh, but I love it. It's a hot dog stand. It's the second oldest hot dog stand in America behind Coney Island. Now, the original one burned to the ground, sadly, but they've still got several others. When I was a political consultant, we would do fundraisers and we would order New Way. We'd let New Way cater, and everybody loved them. You get hot dogs with or without. Now, the with is with raw onions on top of the chili dog, and without is without the raw onions. But you get a hot dog in a steamed bun with mustard and chili. It's more of a chili sauce than a real chili. The grease on top, oh my gosh, they are gut bombs. You need to be cleaned out before a colonoscopy. You just get New Way. It'll take care of you. So I'm in line the other night to get New Way. I haven't had it. It's been a long time. I finally needed my New Way fix. When my dad comes over to visit, I take him to New Way and he can get one with coleslaw on top, and he loves it. Ugh, I don't like coleslaw. But nonetheless, there's a woman in a white Cadillac in front of me. Now, the license plate says Chatham, which means this is a fine resident of the city of Savannah, Georgia, the place that welcomed General Sherman lest he burn the city down like he did Atlanta. Genteel woman from Savannah, who is in front of me at the drive-thru, who is yelling at the speaker. She's ordering a mega burger. Now, you go to New Way for hot dogs. You do not go to New Way for burgers, although, full disclosure, I will get the mega burger on occasion. If I'm constipated, it's a great way to deal with that. The woman yells into the speaker, "Can I get whole leaf lettuce on that?" You are in a place that makes McDonald's look like a 5-star gourmet experience, asking for if the burger comes with whole leaf lettuce. Friends, I'm pretty sure the shredded lettuce at New Way comes from the Kroger down the street. When it puts the expired lettuce in the dumpster, the New Way goes down and gets it because it's that perfect shade of brown to go with the bright red of the hot dog. I don't know. It doesn't exactly have fresh, and it sure as heck is not whole leaf lettuce. And then she wanted to know if she could get anything not fried. That's like going to Kentucky Fried Chicken and asking for the chicken without the crust. She's at a New Way Wiener. She wants whole leaf lettuce on the mega burger, and she wants non-fried French fries or something. I have no idea. That's like Dr. Oz in Pennsylvania. It says, "Hello, I am not from here." And the voters, the Republicans in Pennsylvania, picked the guy, and he lost. Same with their Republican gubernatorial nominee. Candidate quality matters. And voter discernment matters greatly. Voter discernment really, really matters. And when you have a guy who loses by 11 points in Wisconsin, you can't be surprised when you lose by 11 points the second time. You probably should not have renominated him. Now, I get renominating people who lose close. In 1976, Ronald Reagan challenged Gerald R. Ford for the Republican nomination and made it to the convention, but he lost. But he came close, and doggone it, in 1980, he ran again and he won. And the entirety of the Republican establishment ran against him. I mean, George H.W. Bush, Howard Baker, Bob Dole, all these Republicans ran against Ronald Reagan in 1980 to stop him from getting the nomination. And it wound up being very much like Trump in 2016. So many people ran to stop Reagan. Reagan consolidated the Goldwater forces, the conservatives, and he won the nomination. And then he brought George H.W. Bush on to unify the ticket between the moderates and the conservatives. Ronald Reagan wanted to win. He took steps, including making George H.W. Bush his vice presidential nominee so that he can win. What we see more and more is that if these conservative firebrand stolen election people win, like Kari Lake in Arizona, she does nothing to try to win the general election. She wants the righteousness of the movement without the conviction of a politician who actually wants to win the whole damn thing. You can't actually affect change in the country if you decide to become the nominee and then blow it all. Kari Lake literally told McCain voters she did not want their vote, and so they did not vote against her. And instead of acknowledging maybe she shouldn't do that, she's been pushing the mythology of the stolen election in Arizona, where the only Republicans who the election was stolen from were the ones who glorified the 2020 election as stolen. And I'm going to get hate mail from some 90-year-old saying, it was stolen. Haven't you seen the evidence? Okay, boomer. The fact of the matter is, you voters, when you are voting for candidates, have got to figure out some discerning qualities of candidates who can actually win a general election. Winning the primary doesn't matter if you can't win the general election, which means in some areas of the country, a more conservative candidate is better than a moderate. And in some areas of the country, a moderate is better than a conservative. And if you're just showing up deciding, you know what, I want the absolute firebrand who's going to own the left in a purple state, that guy's probably going to get beat. The question Republican voters have to ask themselves is, do I want the righteousness of my conviction with a guy who's just going to troll the left in a campaign, or do I want someone who's actually going to win? Do you want to win? It was obvious as the day is long what was going to happen to Herschel Walker. And I tried telling people on the radio constantly, this is what's coming. This is what's going to happen. No. You just don't like Trump. That's why you don't like Herschel Walker, because you don't like Trump because Trump picked him. No, I voted for Herschel Walker. I let Herschel Walker come on my program. But I could tell you exactly what was going to happen to Herschel Walker because I knew what the opposition research was. Dan Kelly in Wisconsin, every major Republican donor in Wisconsin was warning the base, guys, this guy's going to be a disaster for a second time. Did you not see 2022? The voters, I think they just want to lose so they can feel like victims. Republicans, do you want to win in 2024? There's a path forward for you if you want to win. There are ways to win. Republicans won a huge victory in New York congressional races of all places. They did well in parts of California that they haven't done well in. Voters are craving a change, but your candidates matter. Your discernment for who a good candidate is should be recalibrated based on Kelly in Wisconsin and the results of 2022. And if you just can't recognize that maybe you need to recalibrate, maybe for the love of God and all that is decent and holy, don't go participate in the primaries. Let the people who actually have some sense of discernment pick the Republican candidate. And if you want to stay home in the general, that might actually help us too. People, I would like to win to stop the left, but to win to stop the left, you actually have to nominate a candidate who can persuade independent voters and not sound crazy. That used to be something Republicans excelled at, and now it's like they'd rather lose so they can scream about being a victim than actually win and stop the left. I'd like to stop the left, please.